Good afternoon, everybody. We will get started in just a couple minutes here, so just hang tight.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Brad Morse with the Work Comp Modernization Program. I appreciate everybody for being on this call and being on the on this answer hour. So we will respect everybody's time and get started. I'm not seeing a complete list of names, so if Richard Davis is on from ADR, please let me know, and I will turn it over to you. But I wanted to start this with, again, saying thank you, but we wanted to kind of, this answer hour is going to be structured a little bit differently. We will be giving some information and answering any questions, obviously, but we also have some questions of our own. So I'd like to get started, and so if we can go to the first slide. This is a snapshot of what was sent out to everybody that's on our mailing list about the delay in the campus launch. As everybody's aware, the launch was scheduled for August 31st, which would have been yesterday. So if you didn't see this, you're really shocked that this happened. But it was scheduled for yesterday at August 31st, and there were some factors in going into this decision where we decided to push the delay out there until November 2nd. Next slide. The first thing is why the commissioner decided to make this decision in conjunction with the governor's office and with Minute IT leadership was that there was some of our external stakeholders had requested some more times to work through their business readiness plans. There was some impacts on certain industries due to COVID-19 to transform and make their systems ready to accommodate some of the new processes from campus. We got a theme that we wanted, that stakeholders needed some more exposure. The 60-day delay was really the minimum delay we could do based on the statute. So we decided they actually decided to push it out 60 days, and then we were going to go live on November 2nd. So that's the big news. I think everybody was aware of it. But what does it really mean? Next slide. What does 60 days get us? That's the important thing. Is we saw those themes with our external stakeholders, and every stakeholder group is at a different level of what they need to have happen in order to be able to go live. The group of attorneys actually was on the higher end and able to go live, but there were just some groups that needed some more. We wanted to accommodate to make sure that to ensure a successful launch. So the first thing you're going to notice is the first thing we're going to do is there's going to be a number of communication activities going on in the 60 days. We wanted to fill any gaps where people did not have enough information or didn't have an opportunity to speak to the department. So we wanted to make sure we have more communications. So we will have communications going out weekly. We'll have a lot more frequent answer hours, and we will do some other surveys to get readiness and make sure we're able to go ahead. We will have definitely have more feedback sessions. The making sure that the business readiness activities are a go and they are aligned to the stakeholders. And this has to do with a lot of large stakeholders. If you think about their internal systems have to change, especially with processing of electronic files. So making sure that they're able to process the files and that they're able to do the good work they do and take care of the injured worker or the employer, to make sure they're able to do their job on that. We'll have more stakeholder demos. We heard a lot. We wanted to see more of the system. And then, of course, we're going to have retraining opportunities. We got a lot of good feedback on training, and we want to incorporate that feedback to make the training better and make it more useful for the groups that are participating in it. So this is kind of what we're expecting to do in the next 60 days. If you notice, there's no rebuild all sorts of functionality or add in a whole bunch of stuff. That's really not what this is for. The system is done, it's designed. It's really about making sure everybody's ready to use it, come go live, and go from there. The next slide. This is a slide, and if Richard's on, please jump on here. If he's not, I will take it. We've been getting a lot of questions about, what needs to be filed at which department. And, I want to just be clear, the Office of Administrative Hearings has their own system. And so when go live happens, it just stays, the CTRAC system you currently use stays the same. The same filings go there, the same way you participate with that system is identical. What happens with Campus is there's the filings that we accept go electronic instead of going to paper. So you file those in Campus. So you'll still file stuff with OH, and you'll still file stuff in Campus. There is some integration work between the systems, but really the integration work is designed around just the department storing documents after they've been processed over at the Office of Administrative Hearings. There's some other pieces in our system that will allow some lookups and types of things, quick access of data that is over there, but it's really not replacing that system, the Office system. So I just want to be clear on that. And in this one, we're getting a lot of questions on, so I just want to make sure that we all understand that the Office still has their filings. They still do it the same way. When Campus goes live, there's nothing different with them. With us, you just need to learn how to navigate Campus and do your filings in Campus. And then, that's the message I wanted to put out there. If anybody has any comments or questions, feel free to just type them in. We are recording this meeting, and we would like to make sure that everybody can ask questions. We like the written kind so that we can read the question and then also document it, because if you're having a question, we want to make sure that everybody out there is probably maybe having the same question. Like we said, with the filings and where they go to, we just got that recently again, so we wanted to have that up there. So going back to how we got here to where we pushed a delay in the Campus go live, there were a lot of factors that went into it, but one of the factors that was really important is, the project leadership. It has changed over the past years and even the past month, but now Commissioner Robertson, she is committed to listening to stakeholders, and she wanted, before we went live, to do a pulse survey of where are our stakeholders at, so she could have an idea of where all the different stakeholders are at. So if anybody was on that, you probably got a survey, and there were 4 basic questions. about your readiness? Well, we had some themes come out of this survey, and these are overall things. They're not just for attorneys, and they're not just for another stakeholder group. These are our overall themes, but I think they're good to address because they went into why we decided to move to go live and why we have such an effort now to correct these things, and that effort is needs to be reported on and make sure that we are held accountable for this. So concerns about the individual's organization's readiness for campus. We heard that throughout the survey. People rated that. There are different ratings, and so when you think about yourself as an attorney or your organization as your law firm, what is your readiness to go live with the system? That was one of the ones we've heard. We had concerns about that. We had some stakeholders that had a lack of confidence in their ability to use the application. And some of that's why you saw that the retraining effort needs to be instituted, and why we need to tweak our training, and we need to get your feedback on training as what you need to do just to have, so that you do have that confidence. And then there was a question in there that was, what happens after go live, and how do we support the groups after they go live? There was that was put out there, and I think that's something that we just didn't message well. That the support for the stakeholders for after go live was something that we just didn't communicate properly, and that was something that I take myself, that I could have done a better job of making sure that there was an understanding of that. And so we will commit to showing that there is a support plan for after go live. I don't know if you guys have already seen, there is a help desk already stood up at DLI right now. It was in anticipation for this go live, but the help desk is up now, and it will help support calls for campus after go live. We have a number of resources internally and some externally that we will bring in to deal with some of those support issues for a go live of this size. But those are the themes from the Pulse survey. And I think, if you're looking at it, I don't think any of those themes are shocking anybody. Or, if you've been part of this, and hopefully you have, this is something that happens, and so we want to address it. So if we can go to the next slide. All right. So our engagement plan, and I'll breeze through this, but I think the focus of this meeting is we just delayed the project, and we want to make sure we get feedback from everybody to clarify the results of the Pulse survey. So those are our themes I just named. Identify some of the areas that we can do a better job in, and then also identified some of the business readiness and training gaps. That's going to be key for this meeting, is trying to discuss those things in an open forum. And I know that there's not a large number of people on this call, and sometimes it's midday, and I understand things happen, but we will be reaching out to try and get some of this information, and also this will be recorded. So we want to make sure we get that, because the goal is we need to address the business readiness for our stakeholders, and we need to implement a plan, and we have to be able to measure against the plan that we've implemented. And that's the key, is we have to show that we are doing the things that the groups have asked us to do, so they can ensure that they're ready for their system. Targeted testing and demos to increase knowledge, that's going to be in the training. So I know a question has been out there: can we get into the production environment before go live? And the answer to that is no, we cannot. We are looking into a way to look into our test environment, but there's some pretty big limitations into what we can do with that, and it would be a risk to the agency and to the state. So we do have that elevated as an escalated decision as to what we can offer for that, but at this time, no, we cannot get into the production environment and play around it. That's why we want to know how to better utilize the demos, how to show people exactly how to do it, have more targeted training for different people in different roles. For instance, the group administrators need to have a much more robust training on what to do to be a group administrator and how to utilize that functionality to the best of its ability. So that's stuff we are working on. And then, of course, we want to continue answer hours. We want to keep getting the questions in. We did get a question right before we jumped on, and I will address it shortly. So next one. Part of the strategy going forward is to ensure that we have our change leaders identified from the department, that our department staff that do understand the processes that these groups go through. So that is going to be for the insurers and trading partners. That's going to be Melissa Parrish. And if anybody does represent a self-insurer or a TPA, they fall into that group as well, just so you're aware of that. For our rehab providers, we have Mike Hill. He's with Compliance Records and Training, and he oversees the QRC registration and also the rehab rules in that process. For the law firms, we have Richard Davis. He is the ADR director and is familiar with the challenges of one, going live with the system of this. He has background with other agencies, but he also understands what from the boots on the ground what challenges are. And then for our employers, we have Tom Hansen. And we are getting some feedback, so if you are not speaking or don't have a comment, please put yourself on mute. So Tom Hansen, he's with the Special Comp Fund, and he will help with that. All right. Next slide. Okay. This is where we address some of those categories. And so this is where it needs to get interactive here. So feel free to speak up and speak your mind here. What type of support does your organization need to successfully transition to campus?
Yeah.
And you don't have to speak up, you can type it in.
Yeah, Brad, this is Richard. I apologize. We had some technical issues before. I was just going to remind people, yeah, please use the chat function. I can help monitor that for you, Brad. I know between me and Angie, we'll get it squared away. Sorry, we had some issues before, but I'm here now. Thanks.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so all right, well, everybody can read the slide. Basically, what is your understanding for the changes from the current state to the future state? Do you understand? So understand this? Anything?
Yeah, so Brad, something that was mentioned was just a question about training of group admins. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of feedback and questions regarding that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so, well, it's good because, you just heard the voice of Angie Andreessen. She is our business analyst, and she currently is making a training dedicated to just the group admins. They will explore that functionality, but also can tailor to the law community. So any feedback from your group admins for your firm is greatly appreciated. And then obviously when we set up that training, we're going to want to get everybody.
A couple more questions here. Is there a number yet for the help desk?
Yes, there is. And I can make sure that gets sent out to everybody after this. It was sent out in an announcement or Gov delivery last week, but I will make sure that gets sent out to everybody.
Another one here, just the need for concrete suggestions on how to plan to best use campus for team and user access to claims and cases.
Okay. And I'd like to explore that one. So a concrete plan of the structure of campus and how it's best utilized for a law firm and how to do your work.
Yeah, I think that's I think that was the general question. So we can definitely make sure to add some of that to our training.
This is Chris. We also missed one request for the instruction manual or for the user manual.
Oh, yep. Thanks, Chris. We can send out a link to that instruction manual in a follow-up to this call.
Perfect. Okay. And so Angie? Okay, yeah. Back on the slides. Is there, for the last question, we asked this because we need to know, what are the specific tasks or criteria for measurement that need to be part of your business readiness plan? And we asked that because some folks, like you can imagine, if you're doing, like for insurance carriers, for example, they have to do all their filings EDI. Do you have metrics internally to ensure that you're able to do that? Is there anything for law firms that we would need to know that you, as part of your readiness plan or critical measures?
Brad, one question that came through kind of in the spirit of that, will we be able to sign up for campus prior to the go live date?
That's a good question that we're getting a lot.
Yep.
So the answer to that is at this time, no. I'm looking into it, but that would be exposing the network. That would basically be doing a launch of the system, and so there are some technical challenges with that. We will ensure that the group admins are registered and the firms are registered, so that day one they can go in there and set up the attorneys, and we would have a staff available to assist with that. But that's currently the plan, and I will I can take that down as a suggestion. Do you have another Arch question come in?
Yeah, just a suggestion or I think an observation. Just that there were some questions that maybe weren't answered, or it was a little tricky to track the questions when we were going through the initial set of trainings. Just an agreement too that we need some additional training for group admins, and just the pace of our previous training, a comment that we could hopefully go a little bit slower. It was maybe delivered a little bit too quickly in the prior execution of training.
All right. Okay, and so for this slide here, so what I'm hearing is to successfully meet some of your business readiness objectives. It's really just around, I think we do have something around training, but on an additional slide, but we want to make sure that your staff is trained, that the group admins are trained, and that the way campus works is clearly set out so that attorneys day one or paralegals or legal associates, I can't think of their names, can get in there and they can do their filings. That's really what we want to ensure for your business readiness, is just more around the training. You have a good understanding of what needs to be filed at OAH, what needs to be filed at DLI.
Brad, a couple more questions and comments in the chat. Just a question about having parallel tracks or possibly keeping our current system in place for a while at go live rather than switching over on the day of go live. You want to?
No, it's going to be a hard cutover. The current system will not be decommissioned. It will still be there, but you're not going to have dual filings or anything. So it is a hard cutover because it gets really challenging to do parallel systems when you could file into either one for legal reasons, as you're probably aware how that would work. So it's going to be a hard cutover.
And then another question, just about group admins registering attorneys. Can group admins register attorneys instead of having the attorneys do it on their own? I can actually field that one.
Oh yeah, I know that. No, they no, they can't. I apologize if I misspoke there. Angie, do you want to kind of lay out the process of how it works?
Yeah, so as a group administrator, what you can do, you wouldn't actually be doing the registration process, but what you can do is you can actually log into the system when you're a group admin once the system is available, and you can send out invitations to people who you would like to include in your group. So that includes attorneys. So you could send an invitation to register for campus to anybody within your firm, and then you those users would get an email from the system that invites them to register for the system. Once they register, it will just automatically add them to your group and apply the preset permissions that you included when you sent out that email invite. There's also the ability for those to resend invites if people lose them or if it gets lost in someone's email, or retract an invite if you sent it to someone by mistake. So we'll cover all of that in the group administrator training. But while you're not actually registering people yourself, you do have the ability to send invitations so people can register.
Thanks, Angie. Do you want to go on the next slide?
Yep.
Okay. Because here's the retraining. So I think this is coming up in this in these comments, but I just saw a question come through. What's that one?
Yeah. As an administrator, we need to know the big picture on how communications, pleading, etc., are coming through to our attorneys and groups. In other words, we need to know how to link teams together to be certain nothing is missed, and not have a ton of people reviewing the same things that come through. I would say that's another thing that we can cover in that group administrator training, just how to set people up and what kinds of correspondence those people would receive, depending on the roles that are assigned to them.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. This is all good information because as we're on this retraining slide, we're taking this down as something that was a deficiency, apparently, really for the law firms, but for everybody, and making sure that we bolster that training and we get that training out to those specific people. So we will definitely do that. So, like I said before, the actually getting into the live system before go live, it poses a lot of challenges. Could we better use demos for some of this functionality, like time like this? If we actually had Angie go in as a law firm and show it to you where you could ask questions of what she's doing, would that help?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. That's something like. So these next couple of questions relate to training in the fact that our training plan when we were doing it originally was really around how to use Campus. And a lot of times when I got pulled in, there was a lot of questions around, policy questions about how the department wants something or needs something. For instance, our some of our trainers were not department staff; they were just system experts, so they couldn't tell you why you needed to file something before something else. They just knew you could file these things. So those are some of the policy questions. Did anybody have any major policy questions with Campus as it relates to attorneys and filings? Keep that one in your mind, and then we'll go to the next one. So some process related questions. We've already heard a few, which is really good. Of who's getting sent these documents to review. So that's one as far as a process question. And how can we set up your firm and configure it to best fit you? So that's a good one to have here. Is there any other process related questions that would affect your stakeholder industry? Well, I actually am going to jump in because I do have one because it was sent through the email. And it was after go live in November, our attorney is going to be able to enter in their unavailability into campus. That was a question, and that has to do with both process and policy. So I'm glad Richard's on the phone so he can help me out here. I can tell you the system does allow for attorneys to enter in unavailability into the system. It is not the same as Outlook. It was something we brought in a little after the ZZ counts went away. We brought it in a little late, so we did with the amount of development we had time for and what we could do, we did the best we could. So you can enter in your unavailability. There is a report internally for OAH and for our staff to use to review that unavailability. And after go live, we want to track it for a few months and try to figure out if we need to do some enhancements on that, or feedback on that would be greatly appreciated. But there's that. Oh yes, yes. Again, sorry if anybody is not on. Everybody should be muted. Richard, do you have anything to talk about how your team is going to use that unavailability?
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head there, Brad. The end game here, the goal is to ensure that both OAH and DLI have the ability to avoid scheduling conflicts. So what'll be paramount is that attorneys keep their unavailability time updated in campus. So that way, as the report gets run, we have the latest, greatest information, and then whether it be OEH checking calendars or DLI, will have the ability to make sure that we're avoiding any conflicts, particularly at OEH. I know that one of the things that had come up was that there have been an increase in the need for continuances. And so to the extent we can avoid that by having up-to-date information included in campus, that's in everyone's best interest. And as you alluded to, Brad, the reporting that has been developed is a step in the direction to make sure that we do have up-to-date information so DLI and OAH can be responsive to attorneys and build out calendars or build out schedules with that in mind.
And just going along with that, we have just a couple things in the chat that directly relate to what you guys are talking about. Is there a way to input attorneys on availability prior to campus go live? So
at this time we're looking at our schedule to see what we could do with something like that. At this time, that it is not able to happen, but it's something we can take down is to review to see how we could do it.
And then one other question that we had, little bit different area, but just a question as to whether or not we can have some sort of overlap period where users get familiarized with campus and can still fax, email, or mail filings for a grace period.
At this time, no. The system's configured so that if that was to happen, somebody would manually have to input it in. So, I mean, as far as getting a document to us, I mean, we can talk about some of the policies. I know we have, Richard and Chris and ADR on the phone about, like certain mediation documents or something, but I think we'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, and we can definitely put together a plan.
And then there was just another comment in the chat or kind of question. So just to confirm, there's one calendar on campus that we can update with attorneys on availability, and both DALI and OAH will review that prior to scheduling. I'm not sure if we just want to maybe touch on that and how that will work in the future.
Yeah, I can answer the question of one calendar. So yes, both systems do have a calendar internal, and you do have two separate systems. So when you're entering in your unavailability, it would be into campus, and then we generate a report with all of our events and that unavailability that OEH can look at. to when they're doing their scheduling. That is something that's out there. But there is technically 2 calendars because we have to then review the OAH calendar for their scheduled events. So I don't know if that does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that it was just a confirmation that.
Oh yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Molly, and thanks again, Molly. Both Mike Solheim and myself were able to weigh in on that. Yeah, I think the main thing we want to communicate to people is that keeping their calendars or that unavailability updated in campus will allow both DLI and OAH the opportunity to review it and do the best we can in avoiding conflicts. So making sure that the calendar in campus is up to date with unavailability is absolutely critical.
What other opportunities would help your organization get ready for the future? So in this training, I'm hearing a lot around calendaring. So that's like, are we thinking, I'm just hearing a lot of like specific training around certain business processes out there. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what I'm hearing. Is there anything else that we can do with training, with demos, communication, anything that we can do to make sure that everybody's prepared?
Brad, just one comment that I wanted to make too. If you all have any questions or suggestions for things that you'd like to see in these meetings or even communications going forward, please feel free to send them to us. It's great when we already have some questions that people are wondering about, because chances are if you're wondering about it, everyone else is too. So if you have any additional any additional questions after we finish with this call, please feel free to send them our way so that we can make sure we have answers for the broader community. There are a couple more questions here just about group admin training, how soon it will be available and to whom it will be offered. So I'll let Brad field the questions about when it'll be available, but we will plan to make it available to all the various stakeholder groups and just add intricacies. I know specifically the law firms have some different intricacies, so we'll make sure that those are called out.
Yeah, as far as when it's going to be available, currently on our project schedule is we want to get that out about 3 weeks before go live. We do have to build the training and review the training internally and get it done. As Angie said, it will be offered as one of the offerings. Some of the revamps and training is going to be looking at our offerings and making sure we have plenty of offerings out there. Also recording it and then making sure that we're available. See if you do have to have any questions.
And then just another comment along that vein, admin training on specific setup, general functionality, and better overall pictures so that we can familiarize ourselves ahead of the rest of our firm and also set up our group/teams in the system, perhaps in a smaller setting.
Take that down. Yeah, that's so smaller setting, trainings, making sure we have. Okay, we got that. Yeah, I think we have some real good lessons learned from training beforehand, and we're committed to make sure the training's better, and a lot of that comes from feedback directly from the stakeholders. So we appreciate the feedback, and we really do take it to heart, and we are going to redo some of the training and make sure we have enough offerings out there. And so I will make sure we do that, we get it out there, and make sure we have the law firms available to do training. As far as the smaller class size, is there any? I wasn't involved in all the trainings, so are you thinking just something along the lines of like under a certain number, under like 25, or were you involved in a very large training class?
I'm not seeing an answer to that one quite yet.
That's fine.
But just while we're waiting, another question that came in: our previous training sessions recorded and available to view? And yes, they are available on the website. I will go ahead and make sure we get that link out to you all with that information. And then just some kudos to the trainers in ADR, Aaron Fredrickson and Brian Mack. They did a fantastic job with the materials.
Yeah, I will echo that as a kudos. Having ADR do the trainings for the law firms really helped us out, and they have such a knowledge of how the legal world happens and what needs to be done, and so them just taking that and applying it to the training really helped. But we'll make sure that it's better, and that we're targeting more functionality that people want to see. What's the next slide?
And there, just as we're going to that next slide, there were a few other comments and questions here, just about the sizes of training. It just kind of varied depending on the time slot. A question about, was there any previous training for administrators? I can field that one. We did not have a specific group admin training out there. So that's something that we'll be doing in the future. And then will there be an admin training for the insurer and trading partners? Yes, there will be specific group admin training for insurers and trading partners. And then just a comment about the test system. So just making sure that the test system is functional when we're doing these trainings, so that we can accurately show the information and show the demos of what you all will actually be doing without glitches or bugs.
Want to go to the next slide for me? Oh, sorry, that was a comment, right? Yeah. Yes. So, what happened in the last testing go around? We were doing development in the testing environment while we were doing the training, which was unscheduled. A lot of it was just around some additional functionality that the business wanted to get in there to ensure we had a successful go live. But by doing that, we knew we were sacrificing some of the testing environment, and that was where you saw some of the real deficiencies in the training and some of the glitches. So we will make sure that is that we are code complete and we're not doing data migrations in that test environment while we're doing the training.
I have a couple more questions here before we move forward. Will sole practitioners need to set themselves up as group administrators? So the answer to that is yes. You would need to set yourself up as a group administrator. We just need to make sure that you're associated with your legal groups, that you can do all of your filings. And then just another question about legal assistants, paralegals and other legal professionals being able to file and serve on behalf of attorneys. Yes, as long as your relationships are established, you will be able to do that. And that's something that we can definitely give a little bit more background in some of the training. Yep. And thanks, Mike and Chris, for monitoring the chat and getting some of those answers.
Yeah, Angie, I just wanted to say Mike Solheim, Chris Raymond are both part of the ADR unit, and internally they have been assigned to the project team, and they are great resources for us behind the scenes. So thanks to Mike and Chris for being on the chat today and answering some of these questions. They definitely have a lot of subject matter knowledge on all things campus. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and always full disclosure, when you send us questions we don't know the answer to, we do send them to Mike and Chris. So they answer a lot of the questions and they have a lot of information. So thank you to them. Do you want to go to the next slide, Angie? Okay. So with that, do we have any more questions or comments or things I can do better?
We did just get one
Yeah.
comment.
Can you read
Yeah.
that one?
Yep. So some of the filings and pleadings were actually created in Campus rather than your typical download of our own forms. Is there a way to save a draft and send it to our attorneys for their final review with these types of self-generated Campus documents? So I can field that one. So you can save it as a draft, and then you should be able to preview it. You wouldn't necessarily be able to share your draft with the attorney, but you could share some iteration of the draft with your attorney if needed.
Yeah, we probably should clarify that and have training around saving stuff as drafts, because you do have a saved as draft option and you can preview. But yeah, I just want to make sure that we're accurately giving you that information. But yes, there is functionality to do that.
One more question. I assume if the legal assistants are able to serve and file on behalf of their attorney, that they will be able to update their campus calendar as well. Can you confirm if that is correct?
I'm going to have to look at the requirements on that. Chris, do you know off the top of your head? We can take this as a follow-up.
Well, definitely, or obviously, they can serve and file on behalf of their attorney. They should be able to update the calendar. I'm going to defer to Mike because we haven't touched on that one for a while. Mike Solheim.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the user story. So I don't have an answer for that right now.
All right, so we will get that that question answered, and also it really, as a parent, we need to do focusing more on the calendaring and scheduling of events at DLI. So we will make sure that gets incorporated, folded into training. I see a question here. Will all old DLI files be entered into Campus, and when will we have access to obtaining those through Campus? So if you're talking about a file that is currently in our system, those will be in Campus. So it just depends on the definition of old here. Is yes, most of the filings, we have about 2 million cases in Campus right now with all those documents, but then we also have the large storage of basement files, and there's a process to actually request those. So if you're trying to look up an old case, maybe you're trying to do some defense work, or there's a new filing and you need that access to the old case, there's a way to request access to that file. They'll actually go down to the basement, they will image it, and they will put it into Campus for you, and you'll get an email telling you those files are now available for download. So yes, those will be, so some are in there, some are going to be by request, depending on how old the file is and what data we had in our current system.
And just one more question regarding previewing a draft. Will we be able to print out a copy for the attorney to review and edit? So it may not look exactly like the document that's generated, but you can preview your filings before you submit them. So at that point, if you needed to print it, you should be able to, and they could review and edit it. You would just need to come back into the system, obviously, to make those edits if they're reviewing and editing it on paper.
If you have any other comments or questions, please give them to us. This has been really, really great. And we definitely want to increase this participation, because we do want to make this successful for our law firms and for the legal community, because you're a large participant in the work comp system, and we do want to make sure this is smooth and we do have a good system going forward. So what's up next is we're going to do our business readiness plan. We're going to follow up with our action items. You're going to get weekly communications from Richard. They're going to go out gov delivery, but he will be drafting those. So if you have any questions or anything, like I said, send them to us and we'll make sure Richard gets those, because some of these questions we're seeing here, we want to make sure we address those into the broader community, because we've been getting questions about the what's filed where, and these now we were getting a lot of the calendaring questions. We want to make sure we have a good draft and get something out to everybody that's valuable. And then we will continue doing our stakeholder engagement calendar. So you're going to see more frequent answer hours being scheduled. If you are at a firm and people are not attending, but you think that they would benefit from attending, let us know. Like I said, if there's suggestions on what you want to see in these, we can definitely do demos. We can answer questions if it's something that's really on the process side. Richard's always available to help us out with the process. So we want to make sure that this benefits you, and that, in 60 days from, I believe, yesterday or tomorrow, that we are ready to go live, and that we can with confidence say that, that we were prepared. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to if anybody else has any comments or any questions.
Hey, Brad, this is Richard. Thanks for that. One thing I would also just say to folks is let us know if this time frame still works, the actual lunch hour. One of the things I know that's either happened for a few of you or is getting ready to happen is a change in the school calendar. So a lot of our kids, including my own, are starting back the school year here pretty soon. So just please let us know if the 12 to 1 physical lunch hour still works, or whether we should look at other times throughout the course of the day. Thank you.
There is a question here on who they can email additional questions to for an answer hour. If you want to go to the next slide, I think our email's on there. Nope, wrong slide. All right, let's get our email address out there.
Yeah, I will go ahead and do that. And I apologize. It closed right out of my PowerPoint there, but I will go ahead and put our WCMP mailbox in the chat for everybody. And that would have been, it's the same email address where you would have received the invite. So you can definitely send questions there. And there was one other question here. In upcoming training sessions, will we please include how to request old DLI files? So that's definitely something that we can note.
And Angie put our email address in the chat, but we'll send it out to everybody. And we're always here. And if you have any other questions or concerns, if training, I know I've offered it before. If you have a firm of substantial size and you want to just have your firm get trained, let us know, and we'll set up a training, and we can try to fit you into the calendar to have firm specific training. We definitely want to try to accommodate all and anything that people are requesting. All right. Well, I am. Oh, yes, and if okay, so for the training requests, send them to the DLI WCMP email address up there. That's where most of your communication should go for the project. If you have anything that's more around procedural things, you still reach out to ADR for that type of stuff. But anything around training questions, send them to there, and we'll get them sent out to the appropriate group, and then make sure that we start setting that stuff up. If we can't accommodate one, like a large firm training, we'll figure something out, and maybe we can get a couple firms together. But we will try to get as many specific trainings as we can out there to ensure we can go live. And with that, we are 5-2. Any other comments?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
Perfect. All right. Well, I will let you all go. I appreciate everybody for jumping on this. Like I said, if you see these invites coming out, feel free to share them with people in the community. Your participation is very important, and without your participation, we're not going to be a success. And so we would definitely want you to be on these calls. And so with that, again, I say thank you. Have a good day.